Welcome to our RIPPLE demonstration unit here at the Solar Campus at the Solar Decathlon Europe in Wuppertal in June 2022. We're now in the middle, towards the end of the competition, and because the house won't be here forever, I would like to give you a tour that you can always look through if you cannot come to visit, and later on as well. So I'm Marianna and I'm the Public Relations Manager of VIRTUeal, and I've been working on the project for 3 years, so I'm very excited to tour you through what we achieved in this moment of time. I'm part of VIRTUeal, which is a student team from Eindhoven University of Technology from the Netherlands, and what we did in these 3 years is designing and building RIPPLE, which is an integrated solution for both building and living, as we believe that in order to minimize the emissions and make sure we actually become carbon neutral by 2050, we can only work towards both the way we build and the way we live, as we need to change both in this moment. That's why our two goals are to future-proof buildings on the building side, but also to normalize low-impact living, to change the way we all live in our cities. And we do this with our project RIPPLE. Why RIPPLE? Because like a drop in the water, we create a ripple of influence, which grows in impact as it goes away from the source. And that's something we can do with our project, but you can all do with your small actions every day. Back to the project, this RIPPLE demonstration unit is one unit that can be rotated and multiplied to form a bigger building. For example, like the one we designed on top of Café Ada here in Wuppertal. It can be designed for any roof of our European cities, so that actually we can implement more and more of these, scaling up the concept. The building on Café Ada has 5 units stacked and put next to each other on top of a building that we renovate by complementing the existing functions of the cafe, the dance hall, and adding functions such as a share shop for residents and people of the neighborhood to use. We also connect the roof spaces that we create of the new community with the existing square, which we integrate with more greenery, urban farming, social hubs, and we connect the two with a vertical street, which basically makes a gradient between the public space of the streets and the square and the private space of the residents on the actual roof terraces. We can now go inside to find out how we actually change the way we build this building, but also the way we live inside it, because we really focus on compact living together. Follow me. So we're now standing in the communal room that the 2 apartments in this building share, as this one quite small unit of 70 square meters actually has a starter's apartment with a starter's couple living in there and a student apartment on the other side with 1 student. And they share this communal room that is made for them to extend their tiny living and share space, appliances, time, and actually make it easier for themselves to live a little bit more sustainably. What happens is in the communal room is that they can cook together, meet up each other, invite friends over when they have a bigger group, but most importantly, they share appliances such as the oven, the dishwasher, the washing machine, and the fridge and the freezer, like you can see here. And this already reduces their energy consumption during their whole stay in this building. But what we actually focus on the most is how do we use the energy in the most efficient way, in a communal way as well. Well, this is done through the system that we developed, Equilibrium. Equilibrium is a smart system basically bridges the gap between energy production and consumption by scheduling appliances at the most efficient time of the day. So what it does is that it tries to really use the energy when it's there, especially the one that is produced by the solar panels, so all of our energy, as we usually have peaks during the day, but if we're out for work or in school, we're not able to schedule our appliances then. So what it does is that it predicts for the next 24 hours, like a clock, the energy consumption and production based on an algorithm, and it visualizes it nicely for you to see, and then it sends you a suggestion on when you should schedule your appliances. So you can actually rotate throughout the day. There's already some appliances scheduled, and in the moment that is suggested as a moment when there is energy available, you can actually schedule one of your appliances. In this way, also, you're made aware of how much energy you have as an individual and as a household. So we can now move on to the starter's apartment of Leo and Herman that live in here. Please follow me. So we're now standing in the starters apartment designed for a young couple, that we actually identified as two real people, Leo and Herman. And this really helped us to actually think, how will people live in such a building instead of just making a showroom for the Solar Decathlon itself. This apartment shows how we have been thinking of building the buildings of the future. Because as I said at the beginning, we want to future-proof our buildings. But how do we do that? Well, our approach, or almost a recipe, is the design in layers, which is made by fixed, flexible, and free layer. The fixed layer is meant to last for the whole lifespan of the building, and therefore we can basically change things in between this time span. This time span can be 100+ years, and it's basically the skeleton of the building. So the floor, the roof, the structural columns, and the central core, which is of course structural, but also keeps all the technical installations in one spot. And because we do that, we can actually create one very simple connection of the pipes and electricity to the flexible elements of the bathrooms and the kitchens. Usually these are very complicated to move after for a renovation, but in this case they can be prefabricated, so they can be basically plugged out, moved and plugged in again with a simple connection, as all the systems are in one place. Another flexible element of the building are the facades, which basically can be changed, especially if the building changes in function, to have the openings on different sides, or for example for a different solar system installation. The final layer is the one that is really up to Leo and Herman and any tenant of this building. It's the furniture in the free layer. This furniture is, for us, very important, as it's chosen to be easy for people to use and when they move in such a building. So you don't have to get a completely high-tech building delivered to you, but you can, for example, bring in your furniture, your used table, as we have in this apartment, or if we do get to have new furniture, like this couch, is modular and recycled. So it's based on recycled material, in this case, PET bottles. Finally, you can also choose to build your own furniture, like the cupboard bed that we have behind here. So this is how we design buildings so that they can be future-proof for later use. You can now have a sneak peek around, of course, and then you can follow me outside to the facade. We're now standing in front of the facade of our building, which is something we put a lot of effort in designing, as we believe that solar systems integration is a super important topic nowadays when looking at buildings that are full of solar panels. So our facade has been designed to be a very good meetup and explanation of high-tech innovation next to circularity. On one side, we have solar panels that completely blend in the design and have been integrated so that we don't just design buildings and then attach black solar panels because we forgot that we had to produce energy, but they actually are integrated in such a way that we have a customized design that still is highly efficient for our facades. But why do we put solar panels on the facade? Well, if you think about it, when we build on top of existing buildings and we build higher and higher, we will have a lot more facade space rather than roof space to use to produce energy. And moreover, it's quite nice to have a roof terrace to use for greenery, for the biodiversity, but also for the residents. Putting the solar panels on the facade is important to then think about the sun path, as if we only put them on the south, we will have a peak in the middle of the day. Well, what we do is that we wrap the whole building with solar panels so that we can produce energy from the morning until the evening. Another important thing that we have implemented is how to use the heat that is produced by the solar panels when actually in hot days like this one. And we implemented a PV thermal system integrated in this PV panels, customized PV panels. And what it does is basically there's a sort of radiator, some tubes behind the solar panel that with a liquid that extracts the heat from the solar panel and brings this heated liquid to the heat pump. What this does is that it preheats our water and therefore saves a lot of energy. But also it basically makes the solar panel more efficient, as usually when the solar panel gets preheated, it becomes less efficient normally. So that's for the solar panels part. However, next to it, there's a reused wood that we have directly retrieved from a demolished building on our TU campus in Eindhoven. that was basically going to go to waste. In this case, it has more years of reuse, and it's been heat treated to actually survive more years. And finally, the shutter system is also integrated in the design, and it's basically automated in such a way that it keeps the comfort inside the building. So this is everything about the facade, and we can go inside in the last room, the student apartment. So now you're welcome in the student apartment, which has been designed for Rianne, a student that also wants to approach sustainable living, but she struggles as her lifestyle is busy and she doesn't always know what is the good step to take. And that's why we've designed such an apartment for her to be still comfortable as a student, but also approach sustainable lifestyle. This apartment is a bit more compact as it's just made for a student, and there's also a foldable bed from the couch and an openable desk where basically Rianne can eat, study, do everything that she wants. What I do want to point out in this apartment is the comfort in the building. As wooden buildings are great, but they do have one problem. They basically have a very low thermal mass. What it means is that they lose heat very quickly and they gain heat very quickly as well. So they usually need a lot of energy to heat it up or cool it down. So what we did to reduce the energy consumption here is we implemented phase change materials in our floor system. These are basically blocks of salts that change temperature, that change phase, so they melt or they solidify at a set temperature. And this basically makes sure that the temperature in the building keeps more stable in a passive way, so without using energy. And these are easily placed inside the wooden fiber installation next to the floor heating, and which is topped up by a layer of recycled plastic and recycled linoleum. And this makes our floor completely demountable, like a puzzle, which of course makes it suitable for future use. Speaking of comfort in the building while saving energy, we have implemented a shower system that is a heat recovery shower. So that basically it saves the heat for the next shower by recovering the wastewater. But of course, we can implement all these innovations in the building, but if we also don't change our lifestyle, how will we eventually get to reduce the emissions also of ourselves? Well, to facilitate this, we didn't just design a building, but we also designed and developed an app, which you can download today and actually start using it. This app is called Recap, and it's a positive recommendation app that starts from the level you are at in terms of sustainable habits, with a questionnaire that identifies your starting level, and then it gives you 2 weekly challenges that you can work on with an easy notification system that doesn't push you too much, but still makes it easy for you to basically approach sustainable habits. And it checks in with you after different moments to then, grow with you eventually as well. So this is how we believe that we, but also you, can from today start sustainable living a bit easier. We can now go outside to end the tour and have a look at the roof as well. Yes? So we're now standing on the so-called social platform on the north side of the building. And of course, the north facade won't have any solar panels as the sun rarely passes by the north. But what we do in the north facade then is we implement space for biodiversity. So we don't only live in the building, but creatures such as birds and bats can actually have some boxes to find some space for them to live in. And this also implements more biodiversity in our urban environment where we live ourselves. So together with me, you're now standing on the roof, finally, as we cannot show it to all the public here at the Solar Decathlon. This is the roof where we can use the space for residents to use, chill around and just meet each other, but also for greenery to actually grow and bring more biodiversity in the cities. All these plants, as a fun fact, have been planted 1.5 years ago in Eindhoven. They're all local from either this part of Germany or the Netherlands, and they've been grown and then brought here directly to then stand on this roof. But what is underneath is actually really interesting, as underneath the planters and where I'm standing, there is always a layer of water at all times, which is basically kept by the so-called water retention boxes. This layer of water helps to actually keep the plants humid and with the temperature inside the house. But most importantly, the smart system that regulates it is connected to the weather forecast. So it knows when it's going to rain soon, and then it's going to release some water out of this layer of water to then welcome more water here in the water retention boxes. What this does is that it helps against the floodings to have less pressure on the sewage system, and basically makes sure that the water levels are always the same. So that's quite interesting. And in the end, this is a roof space that we can all use and hopefully share in the future in the cities as well. So we're now at the end of this tour, and now the tour stops here, the ripple doesn't. We will continue the ripple, but think about an action that you will take from today to actually start a ripple of influence by simply making a small change in your lifestyle. We ask people to do it right here, and the answers are actually amazing. And for example, we have someone saying reuse water left in the tea boiler for plants, or some go vegan I see around as well. So what will be your action from today to start a ripple of influence? Let us know as well on our social media by replying, and maybe by replying to this video as well. So let's spread the ripple together, and thanks for visiting our ripple demonstration unit.